The Zarkthian Empire had stood for 12,000 cycles, and in all that time the Imperial treasure vault had never been breached. Not by rebels, not by rival houses, not even by the Emperor's own ambitious offspring. The vault's security was legendary across 100 star systems. A biometric lock calibrated exclusively to the reigning Emperor's genetic signature, wrapped in quantum-encrypted shielding that would collapse into a singularity if tampered with. Grand Vizier Thexlar had explained this to the human with barely concealed condescension. "You see, Ambassador Chen," Thexlar's mandibles clicked with satisfaction, "this vault contains artifacts worth more than your entire homeworld's GDP. The Crown of Eternal Flame, the Scepter of Collapsed Stars, the original Tablets of Dominion, each irreplaceable, each priceless." His 4 eyes gleamed with pride, and each completely secure behind locks that recognize only one being in the entire universe. Emperor Zarvok IX. May his reign extend beyond the stars. Ambassador Sarah Chen nodded politely, her hands clasped behind her back as she studied the massive crystalline door. It pulsed with an internal light like a heartbeat made visible. The delegation had been granted this tour as a gesture of goodwill. Earth was seeking membership in the Galactic Trade Consortium, and the Zarkthian Empire held considerable sway in the approval process. "Impressive," Chen said. "But what happens if there's an emergency?" Thexlar's secondary eyelids blinked in confusion. "Emergency? You know, fire, structural damage, medical crisis. What if the Emperor is incapacitated and you need to access the vault urgently?" Chen tilted her head. "Is there a backup access code? Emergency override?" The Grand Vizier's carapace darkened, the Zarkthian equivalent of a blush. Around them, the other members of the Imperial Court shifted uncomfortably. High Admiral Krevtok's tail twitched. Treasury Minister Polvek suddenly became very interested in examining the ceiling murals. "That is to say..." Thexlar cleared his throat apparatus with a wet, clicking sound. "The designers did mention something about a secondary protocol. Purely theoretical, you understand. Never to be used." Chen's expression remained neutral, but something shifted in her dark eyes. "Could you show me?" 20 minutes later, the entire Imperial Court stood in stunned silence as the vault door, impregnable for 12 millennia, swung open with a soft hiss. The treasures within glowed with ancient power, casting rainbow shadows across the shocked faces of Zarkthia's most powerful officials. Ambassador Chen stepped back from the control panel, brushing her hands together. "The emergency override was Haudon's honor," she said matter-of-factly. "The factory default." High Admiral Krevtok's battle scars seemed to deepen with his scowl. "Impossible. Our finest security engineers designed this system. They would never." "They absolutely would," Chen interrupted gently. "See, here's the thing about security systems. The more complex they are, the more everyone focuses on the complexity. Biometric locks, quantum encryption, DNA verification, but somebody, somewhere, had to install and test this system before the Emperor's DNA was coded in." She pointed to a small, dusty panel hidden behind an ornamental pillar. "That meant there had to be a backdoor for initial setup and maintenance. And in my experience across dozens of species and hundreds of star systems, engineers always leave the default codes in place. They tell themselves they'll change it later during final commissioning, but..." She shrugged in that peculiarly human way that conveyed volumes without words. Treasury Minister Polvex's voice was hollow. "You're saying our most secure facility has been vulnerable for 12,000 cycles?" "Oh, it gets better," Chen continued, warming to her subject. She pulled out her data pad. "I accessed your public historical archives last night. Couldn't sleep, time zone adjustments, and found the original construction records. The system was manufactured by Nexus Security Solutions, yes?" Nods all around. "NSS was acquired by Megacorp Industries about 8,000 cycles ago. Megacorp was subsequently absorbed by the Stellar Conglomerate. The conglomerate went bankrupt 4,000 cycles ago, and all their technical documentation was sold off to data brokers." Chen tapped her data pad. "I found the complete installation manual for your vault system being sold as a historical curiosity for 17 credits on InfoMarket, including the master override codes." The silence that followed was absolute. 17 credits, Thexlar repeated faintly. "Actually, I got it on sale. 12 credits. Chen pocketed her datapad. "Look, I'm not trying to embarrass anyone here. This is just... It's very human, actually. We have a saying, security through obscurity is no security at all. We learned this the hard way repeatedly throughout our history. Banks, military installations, nuclear facilities. Someone always forgets to change the default password. She gestured at the open vault. The biometric lock is genuinely impressive. The quantum encryption is state-of-the-art. But you were so focused on making it impossible to bypass those systems that you never thought to ask the simple question, what if someone just tries the maintenance code? Emperor Zarvok IX, who had been observing silently from his hover throne, finally spoke. His voice resonated with the authority of 12,000 cycles of unbroken rule. Ambassador Chen, you could have kept this knowledge to yourself. Used it for leverage, for espionage, for any number of purposes beneficial to your planet's application to the consortium. I could have, Chen agreed. But that's not how we're looking to start this relationship. Earth wants to be a partner, not a threat. Besides, a small smile played at the corners of her mouth. If you're going to trust us with membership in the consortium, we figured you should know what kind of neighbors you're getting. We're the species that ask the inconvenient questions. We're the ones who poke at systems until we find the cracks. Not out of malice, but because we're curious and cautious, and we've made enough mistakes to know that the most dangerous vulnerabilities are the ones everyone assumes don't exist. The Emperor's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. High Admiral Krevtok, make a note. Earth's consortium application is to be fast-tracked. Any species wise enough to reveal an enemy's weakness rather than exploit it is exactly the kind of ally we need. He turned back to Chen. Though I suspect, Ambassador, that you've just made yourself the most in-demand security consultant in the Empire. Chen laughed, a warm human sound that echoed strangely in the ancient vault. Just doing what humans do best, Your Majesty. Finding the simple solution everyone else overlooked. As the vault door sealed shut, after Thexelar, blushing furiously, changed all the default codes, the Grand Vizier approached Chen privately. Ambassador, I must ask, how did you know to even look for an emergency override? Chen's smile was kind. Because every security system ever built has one. The people who design them are, at the end of the day, just people. And people always leave themselves a back door. We just need to remember to ask if it's locked. The Zarkthian Empire would remember that lesson, and 17 other star systems would update their security protocols before the week was out. All because a human asked the simplest question, but what about emergencies?